All right, our guest is ready to join us here on the show, and we certainly appreciate Gabby Sorrentino for making some time with us here at the show. Gabby Sorrentino, a sports reporter for Fox 19. Gabby, how's it going? Thanks for making some time for us.
Yeah, of course. This is great. I love your setup. It's
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Lots to talk about. Could go a lot of different ways here with the Bengals, but I want to start, of course, with the news of the week, and that, of course, is Joe Burrow returning to practice. I think a lot of us, we expected it to happen at some point this year, but maybe not as early as it did. And I know when I got the report and I saw it come across the line, like, oh, Burrow's coming back to practice, I definitely was like, oh, here we go. This is a little bit earlier than expected. What was your immediate reaction to that news?
Yeah, I think you and everybody else. I'm off on Monday and Tuesdays, so I'm not around. I try and kind of disconnect. But of course, the ESPN notification came through, and I was like, wait, what? I couldn't believe it. Genuinely, I know that he had been around the facility, and we had seen him on the sidelines of games throwing balls, and he wasn't in a boot, so it felt like it was coming at some point. But yeah, genuinely, I was surprised, and just seeing Joe Burrow back out there with the team practicing. It feels good. It feels like something that Bengals fans need right now. And, in his press conference, we all heard him keep the door open for a return. There's been dates thrown out there. But I think just having him out there practicing has been huge for this team.
There's been a lot of discourse over the past few days from the fan base and certainly people that cover the team there as well. Half the side is like, well, if they lose these next two games, which, unfortunately is a real possibility, maybe we don't want to see Joe Burrow again if the Bengals are, close to being eliminated from the playoffs. And there's other people, and we had Jay Morrison on yesterday, and he was like, no, he needs to play, and he should play, and he's going to play regardless of what the record looks like as long as he is healthy. What's kind of your take on that? If the Bengals, continue to lose some games, do you still want to see him out there, or do you think they should kind of just shut him down and we'll see him in 2026?
I think knowing the athlete and the person that Joe Burrow is, he wants to be out there.
Right.
I think that he doesn't care what the team's record is. I genuinely think that if he is healthy, 100% healthy, and is ready to go, he's going to be out there. I just think that's the kind of person that he is. That's the kind of player that he is. I understand that people are saying, okay, well, if, it's tank time and the team isn't doing well, then why should he be out there? But why shouldn't he be out there? Because he is the team's quarterback, and it's still good for him to be out there. It's still good for him to be out there with the team. So I think that he's going to return at some point. I don't know when that is. Obviously, he hasn't really been doing much, but I definitely think that we're going to see Joe Burrow out there this season.
Yeah, I totally agree as it relates to that. Some storylines have kind of gotten buried here this week with Burrow coming back to practice, and one of which is Joe Flacco. He didn't throw yesterday. We kind of saw this same pattern leading into the Bear game. He's expected to throw today. Do you have any updates on his health, on that shoulder, and just your general takeaways from his time here in Cincinnati? Because he's played great football in place of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, well, first off, I grew up in Baltimore, so seeing Joe Flacco walk around the Bengals locker room has been so unreal for me. I grew up, watching him in Baltimore, of course, so it's been a really cool thing for me. He will be throwing today at practice, which is just in a few hours, so I think we are going to expect him to be a full go at practice today. They might still say he's limited, but I think he's fine. I think they're just managing that shoulder, with his age. He is 40, so right. He deserves some days off, I think. He did a 25-minute press conference yesterday. That's something you just don't really see much in the NFL. So I think that really goes to show what kind of person Joe Flacco is. He's so happy to be here. While he was talking, I was in the locker room talking with guys. I spoke with Andre Yosivash, and we talked a little bit about Joe Burrow being back out there. But we also talked about, that this team still has all the trust in Joe Flacco. So, yes, it's great for them to see Joe Burrow out there. But the team is ready with Joe Flacco. And I think that that's really important and really cool to see kind of the support that he has. I'm not too worried about the shoulder. I just think they're managing it throughout the week. But it's been really cool to see kind of the guys rally around him. And, yes, Joe Burrow's out there, but Joe Flacco's our guy right now.
And the other thing that's kind of going under the radar a little bit is the Trey Hendrickson injury. Obviously, you had the bye, and a lot of people were hoping that, maybe with that time off, he'd be able to come back and be ready to go for the Pittsburgh game. But Zac Taylor said early in the week that he is doubtful. I think that despite how bad the defense has been, if he was out there against the Jets or the Bears, I think he'd probably win at least one of those games just because he's such a closer at that edge rusher spot. What's the latest on him? Do you think he will come back at some point? And how big of a loss has it been for Cincinnati over the course of these past few games?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that, Stone, because we have a weekly show called Bengals Breakdown every Sunday night, and we do a turning point. And I think it was Joe's turning point was the Trey Hendrickson injury because, like you just said, if Trey's out there, they're winning one, I think, if not both of those games. He's such a difference maker on this defense. And also the leadership aspect that he brings to this defense now with Logan Wilson gone. I feel like they're kind of missing that leader. And I feel like Trey Hendrickson brought that and brings that. I don't have any updates other than what everyone else is hearing. It definitely seems like something that's lingering. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to go. I know that, there was, like you said, some hope that, after rest, after the bye week, that he was going to be back. And then we heard that he wasn't. So that was kind of a surprise. So I think it's just something that we're going to have to see weekly. But yeah, I mean, he's such a difference maker on this defense. We know that. And so I do think that has been a big part and played a part in those close losses that we've seen.
You mentioned Logan Wilson, and you sat down with him a couple of weeks ago at Newport on the Levee. Obviously, he is now gone. And, I've kind of got some mixed feelings about that. Obviously, the writing was on the wall when you took two linebackers in the draft this past April, and then you decide to bench him, and then it's really on the wall that he's probably on his way out. What was your reaction to the trade, and do you think the Bengals made a mistake there? Because part of me thinks they could have served a lot of benefit if he would have stayed around and kind of helped with Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight. But what was your take on that trade?
I mean, when you bench a team captain, when you bench a starter, you, like you just said, the writing's on the wall. You know what's coming, and he wasn't going to just sit here and kind of sit on the bench when he could be playing somewhere else. So I understand it from Logan's side. I definitely think that it was a tough move for the Bengals to make. I genuinely didn't see it coming. I was surprised benching a team captain. I feel like that's rare. That's not something that happens. And I do feel like that's a culture difference maker in a locker room because, again, we talk so much about leadership. This defense is begging to have those leaders. There's so many young guys. They have Geno Stone and they had Logan. They have Trey, some of these older guys. But I feel like Logan was really such a cornerstone of the linebacker room. He was someone that helped Barrett, helped Demetrius. But I also understand that he didn't want to just sit on the bench and watch these guys play and play, without him being on the field. So I get it. But I genuinely was surprised. I will say Logan handled it like a pro. I talked with Barrett Carter in the locker room yesterday. We talked about Logan, and, he still is so thankful for everything that he's done for him. And so, you could definitely tell that those guys were close. But, Barrett said some really interesting stuff in our interview yesterday. I'm not sure if you heard, but he talked a lot about this organization having trust in him and Demetrius Knight Jr., which obviously they do with them starting, and that, he knows the gravity of the decision. He knows that this team wants to win, that this city wants to win, that they deserve wins. And he said that he feels like him and Demetrius have earned the trust to be starters. So now it's kind of going out there and proving that trust. So I think that that's kind of something that we're going to be able to follow the next few weeks here in the next few games of them stepping up into these starter roles and, maybe even leadership roles because they don't really have, too much above them now.
The safety position, of course, has been a struggle for Cincinnati this year and last year, really. And Geno Stone, of course, restructured his contract coming into this year, but he's still out there for a lot of snaps, the majority of the snaps, and the performance certainly hasn't been up to snuff there at that safety spot. Any idea why maybe they haven't tried somebody else there? I know a lot of people have suggested, like, why is Tyson Anderson not getting a chance out there? Or maybe a guy like P.J. Jules. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes that shows the coaching staff that, no, we're best off rolling with Geno here. But any thoughts on that position?
I want to say that I think a lot of it is because of Geno's experience.
Yeah.
We know what he did when he was in Baltimore. Obviously, that hasn't really translated much when he's been here in Cincinnati. But again, that's another guy that he does bring a lot of leadership to that DB room. He had a meeting with Jamar Chase after the loss, and they spoke. I went up to him and I asked him what the conversation was. He told me he didn't want to tell me. But he did say that it was beneficial for the offense and the defense because, we saw after the Bears loss, some tension started, popping up in the locker room. And so I think that Geno is kind of a guy that is a leader in that group, and I'm not sure if that's where it's coming from with the Bengals front office and with the Bengals management. But yeah, I think that Geno he's very confident. All the guys on the defense are genuinely very confident. They're very confident in their abilities. They know that they haven't played to their best abilities. That's kind of the vibe that I get, at least. But they're still confident. They don't lack any confidence. So yeah, I'm not sure why the team hasn't tried a different direction, but it seems like they're sticking with Geno.
I was talking about this before you came on, the running back spot with Taj Brooks. Obviously, P. Ryan got banged up. He's probably going to be out for this game against Pittsburgh, I would imagine. And, the Bengals kind of at running back, it was kind of like a 50-50 split a little bit there with P. Ryan and Chase Brown. Obviously, last year when Zach Moss went down, it was pretty much 100% Chase Brown. Do you anticipate Taj Brooks getting an opportunity? Do you think the splits are going to be kind of even with Chase Brown and Taj Brooks, or what do you think that will look like? Because obviously the Bengals' run game the past few weeks really has improved.
Yeah. Man, I'm not sure. I think Chase will probably be taking majority of the reps. That's just kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Now, Taj has gotten a lot more involved in the return game, and he's shown that he, can do it and can be successful in that. I just think that this team leans so heavily on Chase Brown, in all aspects, not just the run game. He can line up as receiver and make big plays. So I think that Chase will probably be getting majority of the reps, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Taj come in a few times. He's done a great job, and I think he's learned a lot from Chase and Samaje. So I think his time is definitely coming for sure.
Was talking about this as well with the offensive line. That got a lot of criticism and a lot of attention, certainly in the preseason coming into the year, the first few weeks, and that kind of has simmered down a little bit as all the attention kind of has gone to the defense. You got two rookies out there, Jalen Rivers and Dylan Fairchild, of course, there as well. And I think going into the year, if you said those two guys were going to be two starters for you for a really long time, a lot of people would have said that's crazy. But now as they continue to grow, and obviously it's not perfect, but do you anticipate that this offensive line could look really similar to the way it does now next year?
Yeah, I can see that for sure. It's funny you bring them up. We had Dylan and Jalen on our live show at the Levy last night, and Dylan said what he said when he got drafted, and it was that he would die to protect his quarterback. And that's the type of guys that you're getting in Jalen Rivers and Dylan Fairchild. They want to succeed. They want to be here in Cincinnati. They want to be here in Cincinnati long term. And I think that's so important to have in a rookie where they already are like, I love it here. I want to be here. Jalen said that. He was like, I love it here. I want to stay in Cincinnati. I want to retire a Bengal. So just hearing that, I think, is really cool, because that's not something you hear a lot in the NFL. Guys move around so much. So just hearing that is really great. And they've proven that they can be starters on this team. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if we see them again next season. The offensive line, they were under fire so much the first few weeks. And the way that you can always tell, like, if a position group is under pressure, under fire, is like all the reporters are going to them after games or during the week, right? And so we were always talking to all the offensive linemen, and that was like our number one target for the first few weeks. Now it's a lot more towards the defense. So I think that's like kind of a gauge that you can be like, all right, who's talking the most, who's getting interviewed the most, and we've kind of backed off on the offensive line, which I'm sure they're appreciative of, because they know the outside noise. They hear it. They understand it. And I definitely think that they've come together as a group. Obviously, there's stuff that needs to be fixed. There's penalties that need to be cleaned up that we've seen the past few weeks. But I think that as a group, and with Jalen and Dylan as well, they've really fit into the Bengals offensive line well.
Gabby Sorrentino joining us live here from Fox 19 for a couple of more minutes. Let's talk back to the defense again. Obviously, a lot of young players playing. I've been hard on Shemar Stewart. I think a lot of people have. It's hard not to be, especially after the drama this offseason with his contract. But him specifically and the two rookie linebackers, you can't really quit on them yet, right? You got to, continue to stick with them, and hopefully they get better. What's your kind of just general outlook on those three players on the defensive side of the ball? And is this something that can get cleaned up this offseason, or is this something that's going to take like multiple years in order to get fixed?
That's always a good question because when you have a rookie, you just don't know. You don't know. I think, Shemar has been battling injuries, which
Yep.
hasn't helped because I feel like we haven't seen him, at times this season 100% healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been hard to kind of fully grade him and fully see what his capabilities are because of the injuries that he's been fighting. Of course, everybody wants your first round pick to come in and be this, star and be this giant difference maker on the defense. But when you have a guy that's been injured and hasn't been able to possibly play to his full potential, I do think that's difficult. But I understand where fans' criticism comes from and all of that. With Barrett and Demetrius, I mean, I think that the organization has put a lot of trust into them. Obviously, we know that we just talked about them benching Logan Wilson and trading him, and
Mm-hmm.
those guys are getting all the shine. And we've seen them have some really great moments. Of course, we've seen them have some not so great moments, but that's being a rookie in the NFL. I think that it's just going to take experience. It's going to take games. It's going to take different situations. This team has just been going through it this season. I said it last night. I was like, this team, just despite everything, they're still in it, which
Yep.
is just crazy to think about. Because I feel like a lot of times you've just been like writing it off at this point, but they're still in it. They're still a shot. And I think the guys know that. I think these rookies know that. And I think that's the biggest thing is that no one's giving up in that room. No one is ready to write the season off. In fact, they're all just talking about winning. And I think that's so important. So I've been, I think the rookies just need time and
Mm-hmm.
experience. And I think that, that's just going to happen throughout the season in all the different situations. And they've already seen a lot of different situations in the first half of the season. So yeah, I think that just comes with experience. And obviously, Shemar being hurt just has, hurt him ultimately.
Bengals Steelers, obviously this Sunday, a chance to go to 3-0 in the division, which certainly would be pretty cool. Is there a specific matchup or something you got a close eye on in this game? Obviously, TJ Watt is always an issue when you're going against Pittsburgh, but anything in particular you're going to have a close eye on?
I mean, it's the Unk Bowl part 2,
Right.
so we're all excited for that. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe, the last time they played over 60 combined points and ended the way it did. Such a close game. I think we're going to see more of that this Sunday. I think whenever, it's an AFC North game, get ready for that. It is nice that it's not in January this year because I went to the Bengals at Steelers game last year in January when I
Yep.
couldn't feel my toes for like days later. So it is nice that it's in November and it should be decent weather. I'm not sure what the weather is in Pittsburgh this weekend, but yeah, I'm definitely looking at the two quarterbacks. And look, we saw the Steelers offense last week against the Chargers, and they did not look good.
Right.
We know what the Bengals offense can do. We know what they're capable of. They're putting up so many points every game. So I think if this defense can step up, can make some stops, can make some turnovers, can make tackles, can play clean football, I think the Bengals have a really good chance in this game just because of the chance that Joe Flacco and their offense gives them every single game. That's what I'm looking at. I think this is going to be a big game for the defense because AFC North games it's a lot of defense. I think that is kind of what I'm circling of
Mm-hmm.
if the defense can make these big plays, stop Aaron Rodgers, make impact in their run game, impact their pass game. I think that the Bengals will win this game.
A lot of people in the fan base, obviously very impulsive, but lots of people calling for wholesale changes, right? Zac Taylor, Al Golden, Duke Tobin, you name it. If I sat here and said Zac Taylor, Al Golden, and Duke Tobin are all back for next year, what would your reaction be?
Man, that's a good question.
'Cause I personally don't think I'd be surprised at all if they were all back.
No, yeah, I don't think if you're saying all three,
Yeah.
I'd say there's probably a good chance that they're all back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's so easy for people to play the blame game and put it on coaches and
Right.
management, and I get it. I understand. I am a fan as well as a journalist. I've been a
Yep.
sports fan my whole life, so I understand it. But Al Golden's only been here for a few months, right?
Right.
Like, I don't think it's fair to, and he inherited a past defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he hasn't been able to fully build this defense from, ground up. He started with some of the draft picks they made, but he hasn't been able to fully, get free agents and sign people. And I think that's going to be a big thing in this offseason, is looking for veteran guys, not necessarily putting all your draft picks on the defense, looking for veteran guys that have proven what they've been able to do in this league and can win and can help a team. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And maybe determining how this offseason goes is going to determine who stays and who goes maybe the next year. So I think this is a huge, I know we say this every season, but I really think this is a big offseason for the Bengals, for being able to find those guys, being able to make trades, being able to do these things to help the team, to get more draft picks. And that, of course, falls on Duke Tobin. That falls on Zac Taylor. And then you kind of go from there. But when you have Joe Burrow go down and, Zac Taylor's moving around quarterbacks, he's doing all these things, like, you can't put all the blame on him. And I understand that it's all over social media, but it doesn't all fall on Zac. And I mean, look at all the other NFL head coaches that have lost their quarterback this season. The quarterback injuries, I feel like this year have been crazy. So I think that I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if they're all back next season.
Lastly, Gabby, let everybody know all the fun stuff you got going on at Fox 19, where we can find your work. Obviously, you got the show down at the Levee, and just all the stuff you got going on at Fox 19. Let everybody know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. This has been great. We do a weekly show called Bengals Now every Wednesday at Newport on the Levee at 6. We have 2 Bengals players come on. It's free. It's a live show. They do autographs. There's fan interaction things. I do a fun segment where fans can ask the players any question they want, which is really fun. We always get fun ones. So we do that. And then, we have our Bengals breakdown show at 11:30 every Sunday night. We do exclusive interviews. We break down everything that happened in the game. We do all of our locker room interviews there. So that's a really great half-hour show. I'm mostly on Twitter. So that's where I post most of my content. I also have a podcast, Offsides with Gabby Sorrentino. It's on Spotify, Apple, all the platforms. It's on a little bit of a hiatus right now. It's going through a rebrand, but it will be back. And it's really a lifestyle sports podcast where I interview the guys, athletes, Reds players, Bengals players, just talking more about life off the field. And so it's been really fun to get to learn more about some of these guys. And it's a cool chance for fans that don't get to interact with them and speak with them every day as well to get to learn more. So that's been really fun. So always busy, always a lot of stuff going on, but I love it here in Cincinnati. It's been great. So yeah.
Awesome. Are you going to the game in Pittsburgh, or are you in the studio this week?
I'm not. I will be in the studio this week. And then I will be going to Baltimore for the Thanksgiving.
Going back home.
Going back home. Yep.
Well, Gabby, I appreciate you making some time for us here on a busy week, and we'd love to do it again soon. Great stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.